Welcome to Ravenwood Acres. Jake here. Navigating international travel with communications equipment can be a little more complex than you may think. Today we're going to present you some essential guidelines and legal considerations while traveling abroad. We're going to highlight the importance of staying connected while traveling abroad and introduce the complexities and legal considerations associated with carrying communications equipment internationally. We'll start off with your cell phone, which most may think, what's the problem there? And usually there's not really any problem, just you need to make sure that it is capable of unlock so that you can use a local SIM, or you need to have some sort of international plan through your carrier, which can get quite expensive. Now I know because one of my carriers is AT&T, and they do offer the day plan. It's like 24 hours, it's $12, which works great for like stopover. Someplace you may only be for a day, maybe two. You don't want to go out and try to get a local SIM just for that short period of time. Once you're going to be beyond that, I highly recommend getting a local SIM, but you need to make sure that your phone is unlocked and capable of, using a SIM from that country. Now, a lot of days, a lot of them have eSIMs, which makes it a little easier, because if you have dual slots, you can keep your US SIM in there, whether it's E or not, and then add the other local SIM to wherever you're at. The next device we're going to talk about is satellite phones or satellite communicators, which are more common than the phones. These devices are great for allowing you to communicate when you're outside of coverage areas. So if you're the type of person that does a lot of, backcountry adventuring, hiking, exploring, most people want to carry one of those. However, there's quite a few countries that have some restrictions on that, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. Now, with Apple phones and T-Mobile service providers and others, they're starting to offer satellite communications or direct to satellite on your cell phones. Now, I don't know how these countries that have restrictions on satellite communicators and satellite phones are going to react to this. However, most of those providers currently are not offering global coverage as of yet. But when they do, we'll have to come back and revisit this topic to see how they restrict or if they restrict that types of communications. So legal considerations of satellite phones, will roll into that. So one of the countries that surprised me was India. So the possession of a satellite phone or communicator, basically anything that can use satellites to communicate, we're not talking global positioning, we're talking the ability to send messages or send calls and receive calls, is completely illegal without permission from the Department of Communications in India. So there's basically only one satellite network that is permitted. Unauthorized use can lead to arrest and confiscation, so beware. China, this one probably doesn't surprise anybody, but it is heavily regulated. Unregistered devices is illegal and could get you in a bind. So know ahead of time if you're traveling to China. Cuba, probably another one that doesn't surprise many people, but importing and using satellite phones without permission from the Cuban Ministry of Information and Communications is prohibited. So, and once again, violations could get you arrested and espionage charges. So know before you go. North Korea, I don't know many people that are traveling there, but if you do, obviously understand you're not bringing your satellite phone, or maybe not even your cell phone, who knows. So I don't plan on visiting there anytime soon, but if you are, know before you go. Nigeria, there is certain regions that have restrictions, so once again, do the research before you go. The laws may vary from area to area, so contacting and consulting with local authorities before you travel to those areas is a must. So here's some case studies that might kind of highlight some of the things I was saying. So an incident in India, a Scottish hiker was detained for carrying a Garmin InReach satellite device without the proper authorization, underscoring the importance of understanding local laws. If you read the article, it was a pretty uncomfortable situation for the individual. They were very caught off guard. They didn't think anything of it. They'd been all over and didn't realize that there was those laws in India. So that's why I'm emphasizing on the understanding before you travel, know before you go is important. Another case close to me here, well, in the country of Albania where I'm currently living, some UK ham radio operators have been here for a couple weeks, if I remember correctly. They were actually leaving the country, going back to England or somewhere in the UK. I'd have to revisit the article, remember exactly, but they had some of their radio equipment. They had done the right thing and they were legally operating under Albanian law. However, the individuals at the airport became suspicious of the equipment, wondered what they were doing with it, and they confiscated it, and the individuals were temporarily detained and then released to go back, but without their equipment. I have not been able to find any resources that have mentioned anything about what happened. Did they ever get their equipment back? Because this equipment can be very expensive, so I would assume they'd really want it back. If I find out more, I'll let you know, or if you know more, put it in the comments down below. So underlying part here, best practices for traveling with communications equipment, research local laws, always verify the legality of the devices in your destination country. And I will add in one point to that. You should also consider if you potentially have a plane transfer in another country, understand what happens if your flight gets canceled or delayed and you have to leave the airport and come back into the airport. You're going to go through screening again in that country, and if what you're carrying is not legal in that country, you could find yourself in trouble. Even if you're like, well, I'm not staying here, I'm going here, just understand laws vary per country, so you need to do your research and know, hey, I'm stopping in country X. What are their laws if for some reason I get delayed there for an extended period of time, have to go get a hotel, and then come back into the airport and go back through security. So just understand that could be possible, or understand that possibility. So obtaining necessary permits and securing to secure any required permissions, licenses well in advance of your trip. One note I will also add to that is you should keep core copies of your correspondence with these agencies within those countries. That way, if you are stopped due to some questions of that border agent or customs agent, you can show them those correspondence saying, hey, I communicated with your authority in this country. Here's copies of that, whether it's on your phone or physical copies, some way to be able to present that information to them so that they can realize, okay, because expect every agent out there or law enforcement officer to understand every single nuances of their law and sometimes they change. So keeping those can help you get through these situations with as little stress as possible. So, and then also consult with, maybe embassies, government officials, websites, check that information. Also, don't just use, maybe I am going to refer a few websites that you could check out, but I would also go over and find the actual government site that has that information. That way you have verified the information. And then just understand one other option you could possibly look into for local communications that you don't need satellite, you don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need cellular coverage is Meshtastic. This is the SenseCap T1000E. I'll link a video about that here. I have videos on this channel about Meshtastic and my other YouTube channel. The plus side to those is you could have a couple of these. The reason I recommend this device is because it looks, a lot like a tile tracker you'd use with an Android device or an Apple AirTag. I know it's quite a bit bigger than Apple AirTag, but you can just tell them that it's a bag tracker because it, in essence, can do that feature too. It's not as good as, some of those other ones as being able to do that, but it just doesn't look as suspicious looking as some of the, other equipment that you might be trying to carry with you. And you might not avoid any problems. Now you have a device that allow you to communicate with those internal to your group using SMS text messaging and application on your phone. Like I said, it's off-grid, doesn't require any other services. It is line of sight, so in an urban area, you're looking at 1 to 3 miles of range. In rural areas, maybe 5 to 10. There is variations to that because it is line of sight. And it has a map feature so you can see the location of the other individual if you're within range. So there is limitations, but great little tool that you could travel with. to remain in contact with those in your group. So to wrap this all up, as I emphasized throughout the whole thing, the importance is doing your due diligence. Know before you go while you're traveling with communications equipment, and just stay informed. Keep up to date before you travel. Check, the day before, make sure nothing's changed. One of the websites I use for some of my research, for not just this topic, for other international travels, is globalrescue.com. They do offer services like, travel insurance on steroid, that's, quite intense and covers many different areas than your standard little travel insurance for like your bags getting lost or things getting stolen, that type of thing. So you can check out their website and more. Those will be linked down below. If you found this information useful, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, check out our social media links, website, and more down below in the description section. Thanks for watching, and know before you go.